The cabin sat 3 miles deep into the Cascade Mountains, accessible only by a hiking trail that hadn't seen maintenance in at least 5 years. Perfect. That was exactly what I needed: isolation, silence, and absolutely zero human contact for the next 2 weeks. I'd rented the place through an obscure website that specialized in truly remote locations. No cell service, no internet, no neighbors within 10 miles. Just me, the wilderness, and enough whiskey to help me forget why I'd needed to escape in the first place. The divorce papers were signed. The company I'd built from nothing had been sold to a soulless corporation. My so-called friends had chosen sides, and I'd ended up with exactly none of them. At 36, I'd achieved everything I'd thought I wanted, only to discover it meant nothing. So here I was, hiking through Douglas firs with a backpack full of supplies, seeking the kind of solitude that either heals you or breaks you completely. I was fine with either outcome at this point. The cabin appeared through the trees just as twilight settled over the forest. A small structure of weathered logs with a stone chimney and a covered porch. Rustic, isolated, perfect. I climbed the 3 steps to the door, key in hand, ready to begin my hermit era. The door was already unlocked. My first thought was that the rental agency had left it open for me. My second thought, as I pushed the door wide, was that I should have brought the bear spray from my pack instead of leaving it buried at the bottom. Because someone was inside. She stood by the stone fireplace, frozen in the act of arranging kindling. In the fading light filtering through the windows, I could see her clearly, and everything about her was wrong. Her skin had a faint blue-gray tint, like twilight-made flesh. Hair the color of fresh snow fell in a straight curtain to her waist. She was tall, maybe 5'11", with a build that was simultaneously delicate and suggesting coiled strength. She wore clothes that looked handmade, a tunic and leggings in shades of deep forest green. But it was her eyes that stopped my breath. Large, slightly tilted, and colored a bright silver that seemed to reflect light like a cat's eyes with no visible pupil. We stared at each other for a frozen moment. Then she straightened slowly, hands raised in a universal gesture of non-aggression. "Please," she said, her voice melodic but with an accent I couldn't place, "don't be afraid." "I'm not afraid," I lied, my hand tightening on the door frame. "I'm confused about why there's a stranger in the cabin I rented. I did not know anyone was coming." Her silver eyes darted to the window, then back to me. "I've been using this shelter for 3 weeks. I thought it was abandoned." "Well, it's not. It's rented to me for the next 2 weeks." I tried to inject authority into my voice despite the surreal situation. "So I'm going to need you to leave." She flinched as if I'd struck her. "Please, I cannot, not yet, I need." She struggled with the words. "I need to remain hidden just a little longer." That's when I noticed the tremor in her hands, the way she favored her left side slightly, and the makeshift bandage visible beneath the sleeve of her tunic, stained with something that looked like blood but had a faint, iridescent sheen. "You're hurt," I said, my tone softening despite myself. "It's nothing, an accident while foraging." She wrapped her arms around herself protectively. "I'll leave if you truly insist, but please, if you could give me until morning. I cannot travel safely in the dark." Every instinct screamed that this situation was bizarre. The woman's appearance, her stilted speech, the way she moved with an almost liquid grace that seemed slightly off, nothing about this made sense. But I'd spent 2 tours in Afghanistan before business school. I developed a reliable radar for when someone was dangerous versus when someone was in danger. And this woman, whatever else she might be, radiated fear and desperation. "Fine," I heard myself say. "You can stay tonight, but tomorrow you're gone. And if you try anything, I won't," she said quickly. "I promise, I just need shelter until dawn, then I'll leave and you'll never know I was here." I dropped my backpack by the door, suddenly exhausted. "I'm going to get more firewood, don't touch my stuff." Outside in the gathering darkness, I leaned against the porch railing and tried to process what just happened. A squatter in my rental cabin, a strange woman with weird eyes and gray-blue skin, injured and hiding from something. The smart move would be to hike back down to where I had cell service and call. Who? The rental agency, the police, what would I even say? I gathered an armload of firewood from the stack under the porch overhang and went back inside. The woman hadn't moved, still standing by the fireplace like a statue. In the time I'd been gone, she'd lit a single oil lamp, casting warm light through the cabin's main room. "I'm Ethan," I said, arranging the wood by the hearth. "Since we're apparently roommates for the night." "Aria," she replied softly, "thank you for your kindness. I know this is unexpected." "That's one word for it." I began building a fire, the familiar task helping me think. "Where are you from, Aria? You don't sound American." A pause. "Very far away, farther than you would believe." "Try me, I've traveled pretty extensively." "Not this far," she said with a strange sadness. "Not yet." I glanced at her as the kindling caught fire. In the flickering light, her skin seemed to shimmer slightly, that blue-gray tint becoming more pronounced. And her eyes, those silver eyes, reflected the flames in a way that was distinctly non-human. "You're not from Earth," I said flatly, not a question. Aria went very still. You've realized. Kind of hard not to, the eyes are a dead giveaway." I sat back on my heels, studying her. "So what are you, alien, interdimensional being, time traveler?" "The first one," she admitted quietly. "I'm from a world you call Kepler 442b. My ship crashed in your mountains 3 weeks ago. I've been hiding while trying to repair the beacon that will signal my people to retrieve me." I should have been terrified, should have been running for help. Instead, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Maybe I'd already broken. Maybe nothing could surprise me anymore. "And you're hurt because—" "I encountered one of your black bears while foraging. It was as startled as I was. I fell trying to escape and—" She gestured to her left side. "The wound is healing, but slower than it should. Your planet's bacteria are unfamiliar to my immune system." I stood and moved to my backpack, pulling out the first aid kit I'd brought. "Let me see it." "That's not necessary. Aria, if you die of infection in this cabin, I'm going to have a hell of a time explaining it to the authorities. Let me see the wound." She hesitated, then slowly pulled up the side of her tunic. Bandage beneath was crude, made from torn cloth. When she peeled it away, I saw a gash along her ribs, deep, angry, and definitely infected. The skin around it had a darker blue tinge, and that iridescent sheen I'd noticed was some kind of fluid. "Jesus," I muttered, "that needs serious medical attention, which I cannot seek without revealing myself. Your people aren't ready for first contact if your governments discover me." She trailed off, but the fear in her eyes completed the sentence. Dissection, experimentation, all the nightmares science fiction had taught us to expect. "Sit down," I said, gesturing to the cabin's one chair. "I have antibiotics, antiseptic, proper bandages. I don't know if they'll work on alien biology, but it's better than nothing." "Why are you helping me?" Aria asked, even as she sank into the chair with obvious relief. Because you're hurt and hiding in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. That makes you a person in need of help, regardless of where you're from. I began cleaning the wound as gently as I could. She hissed in pain but didn't pull away. And honestly, finding an alien in my rental cabin is the most interesting thing that's happened to me in months. You've had a difficult time recently, Arya observed. I can sense the weight you carry, emotional pain, yes. You can sense emotions, not read minds, she clarified quickly. But my people are empathic. We feel the general emotional state of those around us. You're carrying profound loss. Betrayal, loneliness. Her silver eyes met mine. You came here to heal. I'm sorry I've intruded on that. Yeah, well, maybe I needed a distraction from my own drama. I finished cleaning the wound and began applying antibiotic ointment. Hold still, this might sting. We fell into silence as I worked. The fire crackled. Outside, the mountain night came alive with sounds. Owls, distant coyotes whined through the trees. Inside this small cabin, an alien and a broken human performed an absurd dance of first contact and first aid. There, I said finally, securing the bandage. That should help. We'll check it again in the morning. Thank you, Ethan. Arya's gratitude was palpable. You're being remarkably calm about this situation. I laughed, a bitter sound. 6 months ago, I would have been freaking out, but I've recently discovered that nothing really matters, so why not help an alien? Can't make my life any more surreal than it already is. That sounds like someone who's given up. Maybe I have. I pulled out the bottle of whiskey from my pack, taking a long drink before offering it to her. Want some, or does alcohol poison your species? Arya accepted the bottle, sniffed it cautiously, then took a small sip. She coughed, eyes watering. That's potent, but not unpleasant. She handed it back. Tell me what happened, what brought you to this place? Why? So you can psychoanalyze the sad human. No, because I've been alone for 3 weeks with only my thoughts and fears for company, and because, she smiled slightly, because misery loves company, as your people say, and I suspect we're both quite miserable right now. I took another drink, feeling the whiskey burn away my resistance. Why not? Who was I going to tell? She was leaving in the morning anyway, so I told her. About building a tech startup from nothing. About the 80-hour weeks and the sacrifices and the belief that success would make me happy. About my wife who'd loved the ambitious man I was but couldn't stand the hollow success I'd become. About selling the company and realizing I had everything except a reason to get up in the morning. I came here to figure out if there's any point in continuing. I finished, surprised by my own honesty. If there's anything left of the person I used to be, or if that guy is just gone forever. Arya listened without interruption, her silver eyes reflecting firelight and something that looked like understanding. You're not gone, she said softly when I finished. Wounded, yes. Lost, certainly, but not gone. I can sense your core, Ethan. There's still strength there, still compassion. You proved that by helping me. Still curiosity. These things don't disappear. They just get buried under pain. Speaks the alien hiding in a cabin, hurt and alone. Exactly, she said with a sad smile. I understand loss. My ship. My crew didn't survive the crash. I'm the only one left. I've spent 3 weeks mourning them, cursing the malfunction that brought us down, wondering if my people will even find me before your world's environment kills me. She touched her bandaged side. So yes, I understand giving up. The difference is I don't have the luxury. I have to survive. I have to get home, even when it feels impossible. We passed the whiskey back and forth in comfortable silence. The fire burned down to embers. Outside, the mountain night grew colder. You said your beacon is being repaired, I ventured. How long until it's functional? 3 more days if my calculations are correct. The crash damaged the quantum transmitter. I've been scavenging parts from the wreckage and rebuilding it by hand. She looked at me carefully. I know what you're thinking. You could turn me in, alert your government. There would probably be rewards, recognition. I'm not going to do that. Why not? Because you're right, I'm not completely gone yet, and the guy I used to be would never betray someone who needed help. I met her strange silver eyes. Stay as long as you need. I'll help however I can. 3 days, you said. You would do this, help an alien stranger. I came here looking for meaning. Maybe this is it. I shrugged. Besides, how often does someone get to meet a real extraterrestrial? Seems like a waste to spend the time alone. Arya's expression transformed with relief and gratitude so pure it hurt to witness. Thank you, you have no idea what this means. Actually, I do. You're stranded, injured, and alone on a hostile planet. Trust me, I understand feeling like you don't belong anywhere. I stood and grabbed blankets from the cabin's small bedroom. You take the bed, I'll sleep out here by the fire. I can't take your bed. You're injured, I'm not. Discussion over. I tossed her 2 blankets. Get some rest. Tomorrow you can show me this beacon you're working on and we'll figure out how to get you home. Arya accepted the blankets, clutching them like they were precious. Ethan, your wife was a fool to let you go. You're a good man. I'm really not, but maybe I can pretend for a few days. She disappeared into the small bedroom and I settled by the fire with my sleeping bag. The cabin fell quiet except for the crackling embers and the wind outside. My mind raced with impossible thoughts. An alien. In my cabin, hurt and hiding and trusting me to help her. This morning, I'd been a man with nothing to live for. Tonight, I was the only thing standing between an extraterrestrial and discovery. Between Arya and whatever dark fate awaited her if she was found. It wasn't much, but it was something. A purpose, however temporary. A reason to get up tomorrow. Maybe that was enough. Over the next 3 days, Arya and I fell into an unexpected rhythm. Mornings, I'd check her wound, which was healing remarkably fast now that it was properly cleaned. Then she'd lead me through the forest to where her ship had crashed, a crater half hidden by dense undergrowth. The wreckage was like nothing I'd ever seen. Silvery metal that seemed to shift color in the light. Crystalline components that hummed when touched. Technology so far beyond human understanding it might as well have been magic. This is the quantum transmitter, Arya explained on the second day, showing me a device about the size of a shoebox, covered in delicate wiring. It sends signals that bypass normal space-time limitations. Once it's functional, my people will detect it instantly, regardless of the distance. And you've been rebuilding this from memory? My people train extensively in emergency protocols. Every crew member knows how to repair critical systems. Her hands moved with practiced precision, connecting components with tools she'd fashioned from forest materials. Though I admit, doing it alone and injured has been challenging. I helped where I could, mostly by holding things or fetching materials. But mostly we talked. She told me about her world, a planet orbiting a red dwarf with cities built in massive cavern systems to protect from stellar flares. About her people, the Velshari, who'd been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years, always observing, never interfering with developing civilizations. We have strict protocols, she explained. No contact with species that haven't achieved interstellar travel. No interference with natural development. We watch, we document, but we don't intervene. Then why crash here at all? We weren't supposed to be in this system. My crew was running a deep space survey when we encountered a spatial anomaly. It pulled us off course, damaged our navigation systems. By the time we realized where we were, it was too late to avoid your planet's gravity well. Sadness clouded her features. Captain Varys tried to steer us away from populated areas. She succeeded, but at the cost of everything. I'm sorry for your crew, for Captain Varys. So am I. They were more than colleagues. They were family. She looked at me with those silver eyes. That's something I sense we have in common, the loss of family. Yours by choice and circumstance, mine by tragedy. At least yours didn't leave voluntarily. Would it help if I told you that I can sense their decision caused them pain too, that your wife carries regret as deep as yours? Not really. Pain doesn't fix what's broken. No, Arya agreed, but it's proof you're both still capable of feeling. That's not nothing. Evenings, we'd return to the cabin. I'd cook dinner, simple meals from my supplies, supplemented by edible plants Arya identified with casual expertise. We'd eat by firelight, sharing stories and silence in equal measure. On the third night, as the beacon neared completion, Arya asked the question I'd been dreading. When I leave tomorrow, what will you do? I don't know. Probably finish my 2 weeks here, try to figure out my next move. You're still thinking about giving up. I'm thinking I don't know who I am anymore. Success didn't make me happy. Failure didn't destroy me. So what's the point of any of it? Arya set down her food and moved to sit beside me by the fire. May I show you something? It requires touching. My people can share memories empathically through physical contact. Is it safe? Perfectly. You'll just see what I choose to show you. Nothing invasive, I promise. I nodded, and she placed her hand against my temple. The world dissolved. Suddenly I saw her world, the vast cavern cities lit by bioluminescent gardens. Spires of crystal reaching toward underground skies. Her family gathered around a table, laughing over a meal, her crew on the ship working together with the ease of long practice. Captain Varys, a woman with indigo skin and kind eyes, teaching Arya navigation techniques. Then the crash, the terror, the impact, waking alone in the wreckage, surrounded by silence and death. The days that followed, the loneliness, the despair. The temptation to just stop trying, to let the alien world claim her. And then me, walking into the cabin, the surge of hope she'd felt followed immediately by fear of rejection, my choice to help rather than turn her away. The slow rebuilding of her will to survive because someone had seen her as a person rather than a problem. The vision faded. Arya removed her hand, leaving me gasping. I was giving up, she said softly, until you arrived. Your choice to help me, despite your own pain, despite having every reason to reject another burden, gave me a reason to keep fighting. You saved my life, Ethan, not just by treating my wound, but by reminding me I wasn't alone. I didn't do anything special. You did everything that mattered. You saw someone in need and chose compassion over self-interest. You asked about my pain instead of dwelling solely in your own. You found purpose in helping another being survive. She took my hand. That's who you are, Ethan, not the business success or failure, not the husband or ex-husband. You're someone who reaches out instead of turning away, even when you're drowning yourself. Tears I didn't know I'd been holding back spilled down my cheeks. I don't know if that's enough. It was enough for me. Perhaps it could be enough for you too. We sat in silence, hands clasped, two broken beings from different worlds finding comfort in unexpected connection. Dawn came too quickly. Arya's beacon was complete, positioned in the clearing near the crash site. She stood before it, hand hovering over the activation control. Once I trigger this, my people will arrive within hours. They'll remove all evidence of the crash. I'll go home. She turned to me. And you'll be alone again with your questions. That was always the plan. It doesn't have to be. She pulled out a small crystalline device. This is a communicator, single use, emergency only. If you ever truly need help, not want, but need, activate it. I'll find a way to respond. Your people's non-interference protocols don't cover personal debts of honor. You saved my life. Among the Velshari, that creates a bond that transcends policy. She pressed the device into my palm. More than that, you reminded me why life is worth living. I'd like to return the favor someday. I closed my fingers around the crystal. What if I'm not worth saving? Ethan. Arya cupped my face with both hands, her silver eyes boring into mine. You came to this mountain ready to disappear. Instead, you chose to help a stranger from the stars. You put another being's well-being ahead of your own pain. You found purpose in compassion. She smiled. That man is absolutely worth saving. Perhaps it's time you started believing it. She stepped back and activated the beacon. It pulsed with light that seemed to exist in colors I couldn't name. Above us, the sky rippled. Thank you, Arya said, for everything, for kindness when I expected hostility, for help when I expected abandonment, for reminding me that the universe still holds good people regardless of their planet of origin. Thank you for giving me a reason to get up these past few days. The air shimmered. A ship materialized overhead, larger than the crashed vessel, elegant and impossible. A beam of light descended, enveloping Arya in its glow. She began to rise. Remember, Ethan, you're not alone unless you choose to be, and you're stronger than you believe. Then she was gone, pulled up into the ship. The beacon evaporated into light. The vessel hung for one more moment, then simply vanished, leaving no trace it had ever existed. I stood in the clearing, alone again, but not empty, not anymore. In my hand, a crystal communicator pulsed with faint warmth. In my chest, something long dormant stirred back to life, purpose, connection, hope. I'd come to this mountain to decide if life was worth continuing. An alien woman had crashed into my isolation and shown me the answer wasn't about success or failure, marriage or divorce. It was about choosing to reach out instead of turning away. About finding meaning in helping others, even when you can barely help yourself. I walked back to the cabin and packed my things. 2 weeks of isolation no longer felt necessary. I had work to do, real work, figuring out who I wanted to be. Building a life that mattered, not because of external validation, but because it aligned with my values. I'd come here broken, seeking solitude. I left still broken, but no longer alone. Sometimes healing doesn't mean fixing everything. Sometimes it just means finding one reason to try again. And an alien woman hiding in a cabin had given me exactly that.